Hi, James Jones, Director of the Mid-Pacific ICT Center in San Francisco at our 2013 ICT Educator Conference.
With Ross Brunson and Chuck Bixby from the Linux Professional Institute.
So, tell us a little bit about your organization.
Well, Linux is an operating system. It's a free and open source operating system that's built by a large community of people contributing back to the community organization. The software has restrictive licenses in some ways, but it's primarily free. And so when you use Linux and open source software, you're basically joining that, you're agreeing to abide by the rules, and all of the things that you enhance or add to it gets put back into the general pool. It's also a very up and coming and heavily used in industry operating system. We're seeing some very heavy adoption and the need for qualified sysadmins at a great rate.
So an operating system like Microsoft Windows or the Apple OS that drives a computer, and the open source means that there's the entire community is pitching in to make this thing better, and it's less expensive or restrictive to buy or use it.
Yep.
Is that roughly?
We're really seeing a lot of use in big data situations where somebody is used, like for Yahoo or Gmail or Google, where they're taking real-time data that would otherwise just get stored on hard drives and using it to enhance your experience. That requires the use of very, very large clusters of software running Apache, Hadoop, and other technologies. And it's just not possible to do that in a cost-effective way using anything other than Linux. Linux is free for use. It costs you for your sysadmins and support and things like that if you want it, but you don't have to be beholden to anybody every time you start up a new machine to pay a license fee. So,
I see. So there's an operating cost argument for adopting Linux versus something you got to pay for every time you start it up.
Yeah, we find that when people look at the spreadsheet of Linux and proprietary software, that your sysadmins cost less on proprietary, which are licenses. You add that right on top. And your support can be about the same, but your sysadmins will be a little more expensive on the open source side because there's a high degree of skills involved. But of course, when you ask sysadmins if they mind being more expensive, they don't. People hiring them might, but they don't.
And so this is pretty widely adopted now, right? Lots of companies using it in the data centers, but also elsewhere in their organizations. And we need a workforce that's able to run these systems and keep them up.
Well, we call it the open source workforce. And what it is it's that the IT workforce, and they work on whatever operating system or technology they use, but the open source workforce is an IT workforce subset that works either partially with or primarily with open source software. And it's a sector that is just growing by leaps and bounds for all the reasons that we talked about before. The numbers that really impressed us was 2010, 75% of organizations that were surveyed, which is about 2,000 organizations on the high end, said that their mission critical portfolio had Linux in it in a big way. Mission critical runs the business, and now we're looking at, by 2016, almost 100% of organizations in that sector, Fortune 500 or so, are going to have mission critical applications that are running on Linux. The $1 million a minute or a second, are lost if we don't continue to run our software. So it's a big sector and it's a big need.
Right, and there's a demand. I mean, there's a demand for the the skilled labor. When you look at a survey done by DICE and Linux Foundation, 80% of recruiters in 2012 were making it a priority to find Linux professionals. The downside is there's just not that many out there. There's a real paucity of skilled professionals out there.
So this is a great OS platform. It's being widely adopted. It's mission critical, but there's a shortage of people to run these systems. So what does your organization do?
Well, our organization originally started as a testing organization back in '99, but more recently our mission has become to promote the workforce development of Linux and open source professionals. Ross, you might want to elaborate.
So the other thing that we're all about is becoming an institute. So we like Chuck said, we do the testing, but we also do a lot of other things around that. We've quickly spooled up our jobs initiative, working with partners such as odesk.com, who have part-time, full-time, and project work that a person can get involved in.
Mm-hmm.
They came to us actually, and they had a large number of certified people from LPI internally. And it quickly became apparent that this was a needed piece that we wanted to point our candidates toward. We're worldwide. We're very big outside the United States and working hard on the U.S. And coming to shows like this and gatherings like this is really good, because we get to show the college administrators and the educators that putting something like Linux Essentials, our low stakes certificate of achievement at the end of a 2-year program, is a great way to get that person into the interview.
Right.
Not just get them a certificate, but make it so that the hiring manager looks at them and says, well, you're definitely trying. I'll give you an interview.
Because we're looking really to align ourselves with academic institutions to help not only with the Linux Essentials program, but to provide an opportunity for students to get experience and to get them exposed to open source projects, and then get them tied into the jobs initiative. And really, we know the education is important, but in terms of bringing their resume to the top of the stack, we know that certification is going to help them, experience is going to help them, and so that's really one of the things that we've made a priority in 2013 is to align ourselves with academic institutions in North America to provide those opportunities.
So let's say that there's a teacher looking at this right now, and this message resonates with them, and they're interested. They understand the benefits of trying to develop this workforce. What is it, why would they talk to you? What can you offer them? You've got curriculum, credentials.
We've got a pretty full set of things. We've worked very hard in the last number of years, but particularly in the last year, to fill in any gaps that we have. So we have a large partner network. LPI is really big around the world, like I said, and we have curriculum partners. We have the training partners. We have the academic institutions. Coming on board as an academic institution, first thing we always ask everybody is, do you have a Linux or Unix fundamentals in place right now? And if they do, we have a really easy way for them to map that to our entry-level certificate. And so once they've done that, most of them find that 5 to 10% delta between what they're doing and what we're showing. Some even have more than we have. And it's very easy for them to then add the certificate of achievement to their curriculum, with some very small changes. A couple of modules here and there, maybe an extra hour or two, that kind of thing.
And
so
the advantage of that certificate is that it's more widely recognized because of your worldwide footprint.
It is. And also what it does is that particular certificate of achievement is kind of if you look at the entirety of being a qualified sysadmin, it's sort of the getting to know Linux and open source. It's the 0 to 25%. It's such a great thing to add to a student's set of abilities, that they can look at this, say, I know there's jobs in this, but is this something that really interests me? Let's not spend 4 years trying to figure out if this is something that I want to spend time on. Let's look at it. Let's determine if this is something for me or not. And then if it's not, okay.
Right.
But if it is, then they can take the rest of the professional program, the LPIC 1, 2, and 3 levels, which are highly recognized.
And even if they don't go that direction in terms of acquiring the hard technology skills, they may go into an organization as an end user that is using Linux, and so they'll have that understanding and have developed some of the literacy around Linux and open source. So it's a good little notch in the resume there, so to speak. Yeah.
Okay, so how do they engage with you? Do they go to your website, or
First step is to go to lpi.org, Linux Professional Institute, LPI. Register, a little blue register button on the top right, and that'll get them in as a candidate. Candidates are what we call those who've registered with LPI but haven't taken an exam, or they've taken an exam or whatever. The moment they've gotten their first certificate or certification, then they become one of our certified people. And then if you look at the site, it's very nicely laid out, easy to understand. Here's the set of certifications on this tab. Here's how you prepare on this tab. Here's our training providers if you'd like to do that. And then, of course, we have our LPI Marketplace, which is where we've gotten a really good discount from Pearson VUE and other publishers and put a really nicely curated set of things that are guaranteed to be up to date and what you need in order to get your certification. And those are all from our partners in the publishing
Right.
industry and training industry.
And if they have an interest in an academic partnership, then there's they can certainly go to our website, and it'll direct them to how we can start that dialogue.
So to talk a little bit more about that, because we work with a lot of teachers and academic institutions. So if they're interested in becoming a partner, what is that like?
It's a very easy process, and what we're really looking for is those that have an interest in including our Linux Essentials academic program. Again, which Ross had mentioned, overlays very nicely with probably an existing program if they're teaching any type of Linux/Unix fundamentals type course, and then of course that. What we want to do is really bring students into the fold of the community, and so that's where it creates that opportunity by having that relationship. So.
And the process for, Chuck and I are on the phone all the time with organizations that contact us and that we contact, and the typical thing will be that we discuss the program, we ask them about their program. Sometimes there's a process where they'll go and map their program and come back and whatever, but usually we always find interest because everybody realizes that this is something that there's going to be a large number of jobs, and there already are, but a large number of jobs in open requisitions, and what greater thing for your student than for them to walk out of school with everything they need to go and knock down an interview, hopefully. And that's a message we always tell them. And so everything else leads up to the interview. That's where you can impress them with your sterling personality. But if you don't get that interview, because you don't have the prerequisites to get there, then it's kind of tough.
So relatively recently developed operating system. It's evolved in an open source community. It's rock solid now. It's being adopted widely by good companies for mission critical stuff. They need a workforce who can make this operate. There's not enough of it out there today. Your organization can help certify knowledge and skill sets that are in demand today. And you'll partner with academic institutions and teachers to help them develop that workforce and certify it.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Good work. Thanks for being here and sharing your story.
Thank you.
Thanks, James. Appreciate it.
All right.